Hi, my name is Margaret Kusa, and I will be talking about the Christian influence on the founding of America. When thinking about the Christian influence on our founding, it is common to refer back to the Puritans who had obvious Christian ties, but it is often overlooked that there were Christian influences in other areas as well. Mark Hall, in his article, Did America Have a Christian Founding?, discusses how Christian references were common in most of the colony charters as well as the early state constitutions and codes of law. In Virginia, which is often thought of as mostly an economic endeavor, the first legal codes in 1610 included references to a principal care of true religion and reverence to God, as well as to the fact that the colonists had embarked on a sacred cause to mandate regular church attendance and to proclaim that anyone who speaks against the Trinity or blasphemes God's name will be put to death. The church structure and the governing of the church had an influence on the colony charters and early laws. Dr. Schultz, in his video on the Puritan faith, notes several areas where the Puritan faith affected the formation of government and politics. The Puritans had a congregational emphasis to their church structure and believed in church autonomy and self-governance, and this had a Republican or Democratic nature to it. The church was not going to be controlled by a king or bishop, and eventually the American colonists would carry this idea over into their politics and government. The commitment to religious freedom would fuel the dissenter spirit in the colonies, and events like the Great Awakening would help to further influence this move towards freedom. A good example of how the Puritan laws influenced the founding would be the Massachusetts Body of Liberties from 1641. It was the first legal code and included some 98 laws with multiple references to the church, Christians, and the laws of God. As Dr. Schultz mentioned, this was essentially the first Bill of Rights. And in studying this document, we can see how many of these influenced or were carried on into our current Bill of Rights. We can see the Christian influence in other later statements of colonial rights as well, such as the Suffolk Resolves, the Declaration of Rights, and the Declaration of the Causes and Necessity of Taking Up Arms, as well as the many explicit calls for prayers, fasting, and thanksgiving that were issued by the Continental and Confederation Congresses. Hall notes an examination by David Lutz of 15,000 pamphlets, articles, and books on political subjects published in the 18th century. This examination showed that the Bible was cited far more often than all of the Enlightenment authors combined. Education is another area where Christians influenced the founding. The Puritans emphasized and promoted the importance of education. Most colleges and schools were founded on Christian principles. James Madison attended the College of New Jersey, later called Princeton, where he studied under Reverend Witherspoon and stayed on an extra 6 months to study theology. According to Joseph LeConte in Faith and Founding, the influence of religion on the politics of James Madison, he says this was a pivotal choice for Madison, that the seminary was a training ground for Christian ministers and became famous for using Christian orthodoxy to critique and accommodate the Scottish Enlightenment and Whig republicanism. He also says that it was a hotbed for revolutionary fervor. These influences would have played a role in his political ideas later in his life. One of the biblical principles that provides a foundation for Christian studying history emphasizes a commitment to objectivity and honesty in historical investigation. I think this is especially important when looking at the Christian foundation of our country. And as Christians, we need to be honest and objective when studying this subject and be careful about trying to adapt things to suit our perspective. In doing this, we have to remember that although Christianity had a large influence on the founding, it was not the only influence at that time.